Unnecessary intro song to totally waste your time. Do you know who invented the flushing toilet? I don't know. I'm told it was by somebody named Crapper. I don't know. Could be believable. I haven't looked it up. But let's imagine that Mr. Crapper could stop you from flushing your toilet unless you paid him. And if you didn't pay him every time you flushed the toilet, he could sue you, take you to court, send you a notice, a takedown notice for your poop. You can't poop. You can't flush. It's fine. You can poop in a bucket, but you can't flush unless you pay me because I invented that shit. Pay me over and over again. And maybe he does get paid. I don't know. Maybe every time somebody I think that's what patents are for, copyright. But that's what I want to talk about today. Rick Beato. He's been inundated. He does this channel where he reviews music and talks about music and just is basically kind of a snob about everything. Waffles about being a snob, know-it-all guy, old man yelling at the clouds, worshiping things that he liked when he was younger, complaining about new things until somebody that does a new thing likes him, and then he suddenly likes that new thing. Basically, he's kind of like me. It's like every old guy. But, he reviews music. What makes a song great? And all these copyright holders are inundating him with takedown notices, strikes, and all that other kind of shit. You got to pay us. If you want to use our song, you got to pay us. And I just think, I thought about this for years, and it's hard to imagine any other profession besides an artist thinking that they should continually be paid for one pleasurable thing that they did 25 years ago. But yeah, that's what we're living in. There are artists that still receive checks, endless checks, for a job, an enjoyable job that they did 25 years ago. Ditch diggers can't do that. A guy making tacos, he makes tacos all day for 5 days. However long it took the Rolling Stones to make an album, let's say he's making tacos that whole time. And he's just getting the paycheck for that taco. That one taco. The tacos that he made. Transaction over. He doesn't get paid in perpetuity for the benefits that those tacos gave to people. Or the things that they did because they were fueled by his tacos. He's not getting a percentage, a royalty on the rest of their life. But that's kind of how copyright works. And I get it. I'm a dumb person, but I get it. I get that you want to be able to reward songwriters and artists and inventors. You do. You want to. But how? And for how much? How much do they need to be rewarded? And I've thought about this for a long time because I've been an artist. I purposely set up my life so I didn't have to make money doing art. That I could do it for pleasure. And incidentally, weirdly, that led to a career that I ended. But while I had it, I was getting paid to do art that I wanted to do on my own. And just because the way the art world works, you sell a license and there's you can use it for this amount of time. But I'll tell you what, I honestly always kind of felt a little, I don't know. You work within the system and you go, okay, I'm getting paid. They're putting my image on their product and they're selling it. So, I'm helping them sell their product. Give me a little bit of money, whatever. Coming up with the amount is always kind of crazy? Well, how much are they going to, it's just weird. But the bottom line is every time I was getting paid for work I already did that I enjoyed doing. I enjoyed doing it. I did it for myself. We're talking about stuff I didn't do for clients. I did do art for clients too, which is a totally different story that I've told and I will continue to tell. But getting paid over and over and over again for something that I did that I enjoyed doing, it's a wonderful scam. It's amazing, Again, you invent one thing, usually utilizing other people's things. I didn't invent the paintbrushes or the camera or the people. I just assembled this thing of life, and then I get paid over and over and over again for it. I'm not getting any royalty checks, but you know how royalty checks work, right? If you got a popular song out there, and it makes sense, you go, oh, okay. You hear all these artists talking about, oh, but they're playing my song, and I'm not getting paid, and I don't get any money for it. Oh, it's just like, and somebody else is getting paid for it. And I go, okay, but are they really getting paid for your song? Or are they getting paid, like Spotify. Is Spotify getting paid because of your song? Or is Spotify getting paid because they have $1 billion worth of servers and buildings and employees and a delivery service that distributes these songs to people that want to hear them? Is that how they're getting paid? They're getting paid for the thing, right? They're not getting paid for your song. They're getting paid for delivering your song. Because your song is still yours. You can go out and perform it. But I want to be paid because they're being paid. Okay, so you want free money. You want to be able to collect a check for not doing anything. But I already did it, right? But the taco guy, the house guy, the guy that built my house doesn't keep getting paid for building my house. Nor does the designer. Transaction over. You build the house. You hand over the keys. You pay. Done. See you later, Jose. Thanks for the nice house. But for artists and inventors, they just want to keep being paid. It's a wonderful scam. And it's hard to work through because, again, you do want to encourage people. Okay, for example, I made a bunch of money back in my photography days before I decided I didn't want to be part of vanity culture. And I was posting images every day, and I was enjoying this little sort of recognition online and opportunities. The more I posted, the more opportunities came in. That's just kind of the way it works. The more you share, the more people know you're sharing, the more opportunities come from sharing, So opportunities were coming in all the time. And I had this one guy who sent me a link. He goes, hey, I found this website that's using your images, and illegally, because they didn't buy them from me or whatever. And this happened all the time. There were all kinds of websites using them. And what I would do, though, this one was a real clear commercial endeavor. They built their website on my images to sell their product. And so I just sent them a bill. And that's the way I always did it back then. I would just say, oh, instead of sending them a takedown notice and everything, I sent them a bill and I said, hey, the website looks great. I made those images. Here's my basic bill had you hired me to do it. And I said it without legal threats. It was always, they knew they were doing it, And this happened 4 or 5 different times. And 2 times I got paid. 2 times I just got paid because I didn't ask for punishment money. I just said, this is what I would have charged you had you come to me directly. There you go. Nice doing business with you. I get a payment. And then other times it was in Russia or something and they just ignored me and whatever. But regardless, I got paid again for something that wasn't bothering me. Nothing was stolen from me. This idea that things that have no weight can be stolen from you is kind of insane. You're stealing my music. No, you can steal a sandwich. I don't think you can steal a song. I don't think you can steal something that doesn't have weight. If it doesn't weigh something, you can't steal it. I'm sorry, that's just, you have to delve into the world of fantasy to believe, we're talking about intellectual property. That's my intellectual property. This is a concept that's just mind-numbingly crazy. I assembled some words or some ideas and some thoughts. I didn't invent the words. I didn't invent the thoughts. I just reassembled things. I built something on top of a thing. I rearranged some notes, some chords, some words, and a melody, and I assembled them in this thing. And now this thing exists, and it's my property. It's pretty nuts to even think of it as property. I mean, I get it. It's there's a visceral reaction to it. Like if somebody tells your joke and doesn't credit you, you want to go. I did that to a friend, by the way. One time, a comedian friend of mine, she told me this joke, and I kind of adopted it into my own jokes, and then I ended up retelling the joke to her. And she goes, "That's my joke." And I played it off like, "Oh, yeah, I know." But really, I had kind of stolen her joke, And so there is this natural thing that you got to pass on credit where credit is due. You say, "Hey, this person did it." You can't say you did something that you didn't do. You don't get to lie and pretend you did something. That's the part of copyright where I can go, okay, attribution. You must say who did it, And if you do that, I feel like payment has been made. Because, for example, this person that was using my images for their business to sell their product, were they making money from my image? One could argue, okay, yeah, perhaps, yes, because images, they create a vibe and marketing and PR and blah, 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 blah. But really, what they were selling was their product. And their product was putting alcohol into bottles, tilling the soil, getting grapes, smashing it, and putting wine into bottles and then distributing the bottles. That's how they were really getting paid. It's for selling the thing with weight, And my images were maybe helpful in doing that, perhaps. It's hard to really quantify and measure because you can't have a parallel universe where you you can do studies. You can go, I'm going to do these ads, and you can say, okay, with this image, we sold this many. With that image, we sold 0. So anyway, there's lots of ways you can break that down. But the bottom line is, I wasn't out there selling wine. I was still home making art, hanging out, doing fun things. And if you put the credit on there, this is where I'm saying, but artists need to be paid. Artists need to be paid. Okay, artists can get paid. They can also sell tacos. They can also sell wine. They can show up to events. Showing up to an event has weight, right? A seat in a theater, that has weight. You can sneak into a theater. That's stealing space, stealing real estate, right? So artists can make money. Let's say I didn't get paid for any of these people. Let's say copyright didn't exist. Let's say that this whole scam about getting paid over and over again for something you made once in perpetuity forever, or 77 years or whatever the fuck it is, Let's say that disappeared. Will artists get paid? Can artists? Well, of course they still can. In fact, they might get paid more. Hear me out. Look, if you get rid of the copyright and the songs just go out there and anybody can use them, everybody clamors, oh, I want to use this. I want to use this. I want to put it on my thing. I want to put it on my ad for this. But the only real rule you had was attribution. You know, somehow you have to just say who made it. Well, if you have a really great song or a really great piece of art, it gets very, very popular. And just like what I was saying in the old days, the more you share and the more you're out there, the more opportunities come your way. And people want to get you to do things, you know? And a client might go, hey, I want you to make one of those for me. You got really popular over there. Can you make a song for me? Sure, I'll make you a song. It'll cost you this much money for me to make a song for you, for your purpose, you know? And then once you pay me that money to make that, then you or anybody else can use that song for whatever, you know? And if it suits your purpose, I don't know, what are you selling? Who knows? I don't know. You're selling sneakers, you're selling whatever. Maybe you just like it because you just want a song. I don't know. But you're buying my time up front for that thing. And, you know, so there, I can get paid. That's one way to get paid. Another way to get paid is, oh, look at these guys are out selling a bunch of T-shirts with my images on them. Great. You know, what does that do? It makes it so that, and if there's attribution there, people know who made it, and it can direct the attention back to my shit. And, you know, let's talk about the blockchain, too, with everything. That's kind of supposedly a way to have, you know, attribution figured out. Everybody always knows where it came from or whatever. But see, years ago, I'm talking about 20 years ago, I figured out a way to make it so that artists could capitalize on their music. And it still hasn't been implemented. I don't know why. But I always thought, well, we got the internet. We can see every instance of a song, wherever it's being used or whatever. If all we need is attribution, let's say your MP3 file, it's got metadata, it's out there, it's being distributed for free, but within the metadata, it always has a link back to the original artist, to their website. Let's keep it simple. To their website. You know, I grew up with records and cassette tapes with fold-outs and stuff, and I would always open them up and I would read all the details, and I wanted to. And I'm still that way. You know, I'm still, when I hear a good song, I want to go, oh, who's that artist? Read their wiki, who played on that, how it was made, where are they from, you know? But let's say every instance of an MP3, you know, it just had an attribution. Like every time you're listening to something, there's a little link in your device. It just goes link, it goes straight to the artist. Straight to the artist where you can tip them if you want to. You can go, hey, you know what? I really enjoyed that thing. And boom, here's your tip. Or now I'm going to buy tickets to your show. Or now I'm going to buy a T-shirt with your thing that you're selling. Because artists can still sell shit. They can still sell merch. You know? There's still plenty of things to sell without limiting and creating these situations where you can tell somebody. This is the most crazy part about copyright, is that you can prevent information from being used. You know? I'm being redundant here. I've made recordings on this before. But how can you prevent an idea? How can you prevent... I've said this before. Like if I hear somebody's song and it goes in my head, if they're calling it their intellectual property, then how am I not allowed to send them a bill, a storage bill? Because I know one thing, a bicycle is my property, and if I leave it on somebody else's property, it eventually becomes their property, or I have to pay a storage fee. You've had your car towed before. right? Oh, so your property is in my brain? Well, I'm sending you a bill because my brain space is very valuable. So either you keep it the fuck out of my brain or you pay me. How about that? And I really feel that way. You know, you can't tell me that I can't use the information in my mind. I don't care how the fuck it got there. You know, once it's in my brain, it's mine. Possession's 9/10 of the law. Your bicycle is in my head. All right. So yeah, the thing needs to be revamped. And I just don't think that there's all this clamor. The scam needs to go away. It really does. This getting paid in perpetuity for an idea that you had a long time ago, and the record companies and the record labels and the way they sell. You know, first of all, there's all these theories that Michael Jackson and Prince were basically murdered because when you look at their catalog and the value in their catalog, you know, and you see these people hawking, spending $6 billion for a catalog and this and whatever, it's because of this copyright shit. Does anybody feel good about a bank of investors getting together and buying a bunch of music just so they can get paid over and over again for it? So they can hire people to go say, do takedown notices. Oh, you used it, and a nickel dime everybody, the whole world, and make billions of dollars off somebody else's invention that has no physical weight. It's just intellectual property. And they just run around collecting. It's one thing when you think the artist should get paid for their thing. But once that's sold and it becomes somebody else's property and there's these big, you know, no. I just go, no. That's crazy. How can you describe that as anything but a scam? When you're moving pallets of bricks, when you're moving tacos, when you're moving sugary drinks, when you're moving shoes, you're moving physical goods. But not with this intellectual property nonsense, you know. Oh, but Merkley, how would iPhones? What about that? What about get rid of the walled gardens? Fine. If I want to use your iOS, I'll make a phone, and the battle will be on who makes the best hardware. You know, there's this thing. For years, when I turned 40, I decided to have 30 suits made, one for each day of the week. And I went online and I found a place called Hoi An, Vietnam, is where people would have custom suits made. And it's this whole town built around the tailor industry. You know, people do tourism there to just have their suits made, right? Anyway, I found this little shop that had an online presence, a very weak, small one, and I got on video chat and I sent drawings of the suits that I wanted to make. And it turned out to be about $80 a suit, 3-piece suits, all corduroy in different colors, right? But the interesting thing about Hoi An is the competition is the suit itself isn't really what you're buying. They use the tailor thing for selling the fabric. It's really the fabric that they're selling. So these stores in Hoi An are basically fabric stores. And they have tailors on hand in order to sell fabric. That's kind of a corollary here. You know, the designer, just the organizer. I'll take this fabric and put it into this, sew it together in this kind of configuration, and then it will have more value than if I just sell it by the yard or whatever. But I kind of see that as being what artists can do too, just like the tailor. You know, you can still sell your stuff. You can still take your creativity. You can still sell your songs. You can still sell your paintings. You know, but why should this certain class of people be entitled to some magical scheme where they just get paid endlessly for an idea that they had or for an activity they had? This whole idea of the artist is a genius, or it's art is even worse, because in one respect, if you have an inventor that really figures out, a fire hydrant or something that's really super, a fire extinguisher, some life-saving apparatus, you could almost make an argument that every time somebody's heart is saved, life is saved by those paddles, electroshock paddles, what do you call those things? Every time somebody's life is saved by one of those, that they get paid. You could make a pretty strong argument for it. But every time somebody hears your song about a turd you've stepped in, you get paid again and again and again. And granted, look, YouTube's making a bunch of money. They're making a bunch of money for people. They can make arrangements. They can say, hey, we want you to produce for us because that brings us advertising dollars. But what if that all went away? What if all the advertisers could just use... It's kind of going away anyway. Here's the thing. It's kind of going away anyway. We're getting to the point where the scam for artists is kind of going away, because I'm finding out just with this AI stuff is that more people have good ideas than we ever thought, So it's just the execution that has been lacking, And even in my art career as an illustrator, people come to me and try to hire me for a thing, and then they go, we wanted this, and I go, look, I can't execute your vision. I can't. I'm not good at it. I don't want to do it. You're going to be disappointed. If you really want to, if you have a vision and you want it done, buy a pencil, buy some paper, you can draw your own picture. I'm not going to be the one executing it. My technique, I don't want to do that. I want to execute my own ideas and make you pay me for them, because I'm a little scammer. I'm an artist, And yeah, so there's ways to get paid. And people are going to make their own art anyway with AI. Like, anybody that's hiring an artist now is kind of insane. You're kind of insane if you want to hire an artist to make an ad campaign when with AI you can describe what you want. The same way you would describe it to an artist, you can describe it to AI and get what you want, probably faster, way more versions of it. I keep trying to tell my artist friends that, if you're going to keep your job doing this kind of shit, it's going to be because you are more fun to work with than AI, and your track record is that you have success. So your taste is what people are going to buy. And more than that, just your company, the trust, and that's valuable. Sure. What do you think I should do? I don't know. There's so many options. I could do this. I could do that. People don't want to use AI. It's daunting. Sometimes it's worth paying somebody to narrow things down, to go, I don't want to do it. You do it. I would rather do this. I've only got so much time, so you do it. There's still going to be time for people to get paid doing stuff, because you're not going to get a bank accountant guy. Most of these guys aren't going to feel comfortable, even with an AI engine, making their own ideas, or at least deciding on one. They want their credentials. So basically, credentials will still be sold. That'll still be worth something. I had success, therefore associate yourself with me. My name, my brand is what you want to be associated with. And again, up front, you get paid. Will you make this for us? Will you make something special for me? Yes, I will. Here's what I charge. It might be expensive. Just like some tacos are expensive and some tacos aren't. Yeah, but this whole idea that you can stop an idea, you can say, no, you can't do that. Rick Beato, you can't talk about this song. You can't. You can't use your time to talk about this thing. You can talk about a building. You can talk about buildings you didn't build. You can talk about trees you didn't plant. You can talk about outfits you didn't sew. But our special song, oh no, you got to pay. And we're going to, first of all, one of the big corrections that needs to be made is that, Rick Beato is talking about how he's had to hire a full-time lawyer to deal with these copyright claims from the Universal Music Group. And they seem to be the biggest infringers. They seem to just have the sharks, the ambulance chasers, whatever you want to call them, the opportunists are going, we're just going to go find any instance of our song and we're going to squeeze money out of people, And he's had to hire an attorney. And he wins every single one of them because they're all fair use. There definitely needs to be a thing where people are punished. If you go and you make a copyright claim and it turns out to be fair use, you should be punished for any and all the amount that you were claiming against that person. It should hurt. That would end that. Same with all lawsuits, basically. Letitia James, her big lawsuit against Trump got overturned by an appeals court, and everybody knew it would. That $600 million, $500 million claim against Trump for his fraudulent property thing. Oh my God. Anyway, so it was overturned. Everybody knew it would be, but there's no punishment for Letitia James. She, not the government. The government shouldn't have to pay Trump, But Letitia James herself should be severely punished for that. It's like people who accuse people of rape. And they're lying. They should suffer the consequences that a rapist would have to suffer. They should go to jail with rapists for falsely accusing somebody. Anyway, little bit of an off track, but that's what I'm talking about. With the copyright thing is so, how do you prevent that? Without doing that. Without having punishment for these people. Anyway, I know I never, this idea rarely finds any home anywhere because most of the artists are leftists, right? And leftists, for some reason, have this special little carve out for capitalism when it comes to art. Capitalism is bad unless you're an artist. Then you need to be paid for every stream, twice, 5 times, The capitalists are bad because they're the ones selling my art. And suddenly I need the money. There's no actual principles there, But on the right, they hate me too because they're loving the intellectual property. And they like to buy up songs and go around and make money for doing, well, it's not nothing. The guy that is sending out takedown notices and copyright claims, he's sitting in a desk somewhere. He's got to report into work. He's got to go through videos, click, click, click. But what a slimy way to make money. Just a slimy way. It's a slimy way to make money making art, I'm telling you. It is slimy. It's slimy the way online sex is slimy. The porn industry is slimy. OnlyFans is slimy. That is as slimy as it comes. And let's be real, making art is sort of, it's akin to self-gratification, when you're singing and manipulating and here's my ideas. This is what I think about the world. Look at this picture. I put it all in there. Listen to my feelings. Look at my feelings. Feel my feelings. It's porn. Read my book. Open the pages, stare at my words. Let me into your imagination. It's kind of slimy. Can it be beautiful? Can it be wonderful? I guess it can be. I love art. But let's not pretend that it's a taco or a sandwich or a house or a car, you know? Yes, the art can go in there. But that's a question do I have. Does the guy who designed a Camaro get paid every single time the Camaro changes hands? No. Should he? No. There are artists that are actually selling paintings with conditions on them, you know? That was the whole topic for yesterday's thing, where you can sell somebody a thing without really selling it to them. Pretend you're selling something to them, but they don't have any ownership. I've had this problem for a long time, by the way, with copyrights. I mean, years ago, 25 years ago, I saw this woman that was upset. This artist was upset about her artwork being changed somehow. And I thought, you know what? Fuck you. Now I just want to buy all your art and I want to paint over it. I want to buy your painting and I want to paint over it, white, with house paint. There you go. And now it's my art and I'll sign that. You know? And I thought of this wonderful project where if you were a billionaire artist, you could just buy all these amazing works of art and just paint over them. Paint over them and sign them. White. Buy the Mona Lisa. Paint it white. Sign your name. I'm the great eraser. You know? Because, again, it's this whole thing where the leftist artists, suddenly have this real respect for property rights when it comes to art. They were down with landlords, down with the owners, down with the business. But my little precious little piece of art that actually has no function other than something to hang on your wall or be a little paperweight, well, that is holy. That is property. That is sanctimony. That is the... You can't touch that. Dun, 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 dun. And here's the other thing. But I don't want to be associated with that wine or that product or whatever. It's just like, I own my image. Do you? No, you don't. If you're walking down the street and somebody sees you, you don't own your perception, their perception of you. You don't. They can draw a picture of you. They can talk about you. You know, once you've impressed somebody in whatever way, negatively, you become part of their life. You don't get to go around and tell everybody. This is what's so maddening about life right now. You must call me sir. You must call me ma'am. How about this? I'm going to call you whatever the fuck I want to. I'm going to use my perception of reality, and I'm going to honor reality, right? That's what I'm going to do. Whatever rules you're trying to make for me, you can go fuck yourself. You don't own your image. If I want to impersonate you, I'm going to impersonate you. If I want to make fun of you, I'm going to make fun of you. If I want to honor you, I'm going to honor you. If I want to talk about what you did yesterday, I'm going to talk about what you did yesterday. As long as I'm not lying, it's fine. Right? So yeah, I don't buy that argument either. You know, I don't want to be associated with this product or whatever. Fine. That's great. Go write a song about it. Go cry. Go cry. You're associated. Okay? You're associated with whatever anybody wants to. People can associate you with a turd. They can associate you with a bird. They can associate you with a word. You heard? They can associate you with anything. You don't get to control that association. But legally, yeah, I'm talking about changing laws. I'm talking about laws that I think are stupid. Okay? I don't like these laws. I think they're bad. I think it's bad. You know, here's another angle too. Spotify. Let's go back to Spotify. Spotify's done a lot of time defending themselves and doing this, and I've done the math before. People go, oh, they streamed my song 6 million times and I got paid 4 cents. Okay, I had my song played on the radio. How many listeners were there? Do I need to get paid for every single listener? That's what a stream is. It's one listen. Do I need to get paid for every single listener when it goes out over the way? Anybody that looks, that sees my art has to pay. Oh, you glanced at it. They might have streamed it and hated it. The fuck am I paying you for? You got to pay me. That's what I'm saying. You got to pay me. You want my attention, you got to fucking pay me. Spotify they should turn the tables. They should get aggressive and go, you know what, artists? From now on, if you want your stuff on Spotify, you have to pay. You have to pay us to deliver your stupid ideas into the soft little brains of the listeners who are connected to our expensive servers and our whole apparatus that's out there advertising. You got to pay us. Well, first of all, you got to pay us to store your shit on our hard drives. Then for every stream, you got to pay us for advertising because you're advertising your shit. Right? Your little song about your girlfriend, that's an advertisement about your feelings. Okay? That's your fucking Bumble profile. And you got to pay for that shit. That's how aggressive I would be, Because that's what it is. When somebody's replicating, like, look, I got to go back to this, When you make your little painting, you have your painting. It's on a little piece of canvas. You probably didn't make the fabric. Somebody else probably made that. Somebody else probably made the wood. You probably didn't even stretch your own canvas. Let's be honest. You bought it for $5 at Blick's. And when you make your little painting, you own it. You have the painting. Once you sell it, it's not your painting anymore. But if there's digital copies of it, they don't weigh anything. You don't own those. And if anybody's using one of those things, as long as they have attribution attached to it, they're advertising your painting. Every place that it appears, it is an advertisement for you and your art. Right? You should be grateful. I know I sound like this kind of conversation is important. This is another thing that I've been thinking about. And I think one of the reasons why copyright exists and it's so and royalties, royalties is so mobby. It even sounds mobby. You got to pay us a royalty. It doesn't sound like a mob thing. Royal to king. Pay the king. You just got to pay me for existing. We're not paying humilities. We're paying royalties. But one of the reasons why I think the scam persists is because the powers that be, the money makers, the ones that want these scams, the ones that are, Sony and Universal Music Group and Hollywood and all these terrible people, is that they want the artists to be on their side. They want the artists to be on their side. It's like they're paying a fee, to keep in good graces because artists have a lot of power. And so do you. You have a lot of power. I can't change anything. Yes, you can. You can make somebody feel happy or sad or angry today if you want to. That's what art is all about. Manipulating people's minds. And you do have the power to do that. You might be good at it. You might not be good at it, but you're doing it, But so I think that's part of the payment system. It's that secret thing that kind of explains why artists are so often on the left, but hugely, rabidly pro property rights when it comes to their own little precious little farts, because they're getting paid for it, I don't know. I kind of want it to go away. It's like, I don't want there to be this whole thing. Here's the other thing too. Copyright also hurts artists. This is another reason why I say copyright hurts artists. When you have a system where BlackRock can come in and buy a catalog, then all of their apparatus goes out there to protect that catalog. And what do to protect the catalog? Well, they try to squash out competition, right? If you have a valuable thing and you're getting 100% of all the money from it, and people only have so much attention, do you want a bunch of other little piddly artists coming around, taking a share of the Rolling Stones pie? No. You think Rolling Stones really, I don't know about the Rolling Stones, but Rolling Stones Inc., they don't want a new competitor. The people that get into the club, this idea that they want all these other new bands to come on, maybe they do, but what the business apparatus around them, the business apparatus that surrounds them, I'll only let them claim ignorance for so long before they know that they're actually actively squashing out competition. These benevolent artists are acting like, oh, we just want artists. No, fuck you. You don't want people to go to the show across the city. You want them to come to your show. Okay? And when you have a system like this, it encourages that. So when you try to make the argument that copyright is meant to protect artists and it's meant to encourage innovation, bullshit. It's a system that is designed for a small group and tremendous protection. It's a protection racket, right? And what are you protecting against? Competition. Squashing out competition. That's exactly what patent laws do too. Apple has patents. They have all these patents. And what do they do with those patents? They squash out competition. They squash innovation. They find somebody else and say, no, you can't innovate on top of our thing. We innovated on top of other people's things, but don't look at that. You can't innovate on top of our thing because our thing is special. They're not protecting. They are not encouraging innovation. It does not encourage innovation. Copyright does not encourage new works. I'm sorry, but any artist is out there that is only making art just to make money. First of all, they're probably not going to make good art, so there's a problem there, which means they aren't going to connect with people. They might have some secret formula, but even if they do, that shouldn't be used as a reason to keep down other artists that want to make art just for enjoyment and actual communication of maybe some edifying ideas. I don't know. There's no way I look at this thing where it comes out as being a good thing for artists. It's not good for artists. It's not to have copyright, especially if you don't have any right now. YouTube, for example, do you think their algorithms are designed to favor? Remember when Google and YouTube were great? Same company, by the way. Remember when you used to search the internet and you just get results that actually mattered? But now what do they get? Now what results are you getting on YouTube? What results are you getting from Google? You're getting people that are already paying them lots of money or that they can make more money. The idea that the algorithms are somehow built to really foster. Look, I'm not going to be a whiny, complaining guy. There's still ways. I'm still really, really impressed by the fact that somebody can start a YouTube channel and with a little bit of knowledge and know-how and a vibe or whatever, can rise above. But let's make no mistake. They're manipulating the algorithm. They're working their way through in a way that supports YouTube, that they can sell ads. So even when they're doing that, you're doing it in a controlled fashion. That term controlled opposition, you're being controlled. If you're the opposition, you're being controlled because the algorithm, the company, they can decide yes or no, thumbs up or thumbs down. You are controlled. So if you already have to work within rules, you understand that who do the rules benefit? Them. This is fine. I don't have a problem with that. But again, this is largely based on copyrights, right? And the ability to enforce, the ability to say, no, you can, you can't. And ultimately, it's even more like just whatever they're doing. But they're being paid for this content. This content, YouTube is making tons and tons of money. And is it good? I don't know. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not. Because with power, responsibility, blah, 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 the inevitable corruption. When you give people copyrights and you give that kind of thing, you're giving them the power to destroy you. You know, you're giving them the power to make deals that you can't make or whatever. I'm getting off track and I'm getting all fucking garbled on this shit. But just think about it, okay? I've been thinking about it for the last 30 years. And it's really personal to me because I have made a living as an artist at various points in my life. And I do art every day, literally all day, every day. That's what all I do. So I think about it a lot. And I just think the entitlement is gross. And I don't think it's good for artists. Or people. Fuck artists. For humanity. How about that? Okay, let's be more honest. For me, I don't like it. Not my preference. And that's my opinion. And this is the opinion machine. That's enough. Thanks for listening. Unnecessary outro song to totally waste more